Hello there, and welcome to the Sleepy Wisdom channel. Tonight, we enter the ancient world of Stoic wisdom, where teachers, students, and ordinary men asked how to stay calm during troubling times. They asked what remains within your power, even when life feels messy and chaotic. This was a philosophy born in public and tested by exile, grief, wealth, and slavery. It was used by emperors in their most challenging moments. It was taught by slaves who realized the mind could remain free, even when their bodies were not. And it was practiced by ordinary people who simply wanted a good life beyond comfort. Stoicism does not ask us to become cold. It asks us to become clear. It teaches us how to meet insult, loss, fear, and success, all without losing control. If you enjoy these gentle journeys, I invite you to like, subscribe, or share a thought below. It helps others find their way here too, one sleepy soul at a time. But for now, all you need to do is settle in. Let your shoulders soften. Let your breathing slow. And as the day begins to gently fade away, join me as we explore this ancient philosophy together. Let's begin. Stoicism began as a simple philosophy for ordinary people. It did not begin in a locked temple or a secret library. It began in public, where merchants shouted, politicians argued, and anxious citizens crossed paths with beggars and soldiers. That setting matters, because the teaching was never meant to be decorative. It was designed for people who had debts, illnesses, enemies, disappointments, and sudden turns of fortune. The strange power of this tradition is that it does not ask life to become easier before wisdom can begin. It starts exactly where a person is standing. Some people are drawn to it because it feels almost like a hidden operating manual for the human mind. It says that the outer world may be unstable, but the inner court of judgment can be trained. That is a radical claim. Not because it sounds mystical, but because it places dignity back into the hands of someone who thought they had lost control completely. Epictetus taught freedom after living much of his life enslaved. His story gives Stoicism a force that theory alone could never carry. He was not merely speculating about hardship from a comfortable distance. He had known what it meant to have another person claim ownership over his body, his labor, and his choices. Yet his later teaching insisted that the deepest form of liberty was not granted by status. It had to be built inside the mind. This does not excuse oppression or make suffering noble. It makes his insight more disturbing and more powerful. He argued that a person can be chained by fear, craving, vanity, and resentment long after the visible chains are gone. In that sense, many apparently free people are still captives. His classroom became a place where students were trained to notice the difference between what happens to them and what they become because of it. That is why his voice still feels alive. It speaks from pressure, not theory. Marcus Aurelius wrote private reminders that became a global wisdom classic. The strange thing is that he was not trying to impress history. His notes were not polished for applause, and they were not written as a public manifesto. They were personal corrections from a man surrounded by power, illness, war, political betrayal, and constant responsibility. That makes the book feel almost forbidden, as though we are listening through a door while an emperor tries to discipline his own mind. He tells himself not to be arrogant. He tells himself not to waste time. He warns himself that praise is temporary and anger is foolish. The shock is that the most powerful man in his world still had to wrestle with the same inner problems as everyone else. Some readers find this more fascinating than any legend about kings. Behind the imperial image stands a human being trying to remain decent when almost no one can force him to be decent. That is the real drama. The Stoics believed your judgment shapes your suffering more than events. This idea sounds simple until it begins to rearrange everything. A delayed message, a rude comment, a failed plan, or a sudden loss does not enter the mind as pure fact. It arrives with an interpretation. The mind says, "This is unbearable, this is unfair, this proves something terrible about me." The Stoics noticed that these hidden judgments can deepen pain until the event becomes far larger than itself. They were not saying that pain is imaginary. They were saying that the second wound often comes from the story we attach to the first. That is why their training aimed at the instant between perception and belief. In that small space, a whole life can change direction. Some people compare this to discovering a secret lever inside experience. You may not move the mountain, but you can examine the meaning you have given it. For the Stoics, that examination was the beginning of freedom. Their most famous practice begins by separating control from concern. At the heart of Stoic training is a dividing line that can feel almost supernatural once you notice it. On one side are your choices, your judgments, your actions, your attention, and your willingness to tell the truth. On the other side are other people's opinions, the past, the weather, the market, the body's aging, and countless outcomes that refuse to obey command. Most misery begins when these two sides are confused. We try to control what is only influenceable. We neglect what is actually ours. The practice is not passive. It is a ruthless sorting of mental energy. A person can still work hard, plan carefully, and care deeply. But the grip changes. Instead of demanding that reality bend, the Stoic asks where responsibility genuinely begins. This has an almost shocking practical effect. It turns scattered anxiety into focused action, and it exposes how often the mind has been arguing with the unreachable. Seneca warned that people waste life while pretending they are preparing. He saw something that still feels uncomfortably modern. People postpone living until some perfect condition arrives. They wait for more money, more certainty, more recognition, more free time, or a future version of themselves who will finally be ready. Meanwhile, the only life they actually possess keeps passing through their hands. Seneca's warning is not merely about laziness. It is about the strange human habit of treating time as if it were unlimited credit. A person can be extremely busy and still be spiritually absent. Meetings, errands, ambitions, and distractions can create the illusion of purpose, while the deeper life remains untouched. This is why his writing can feel like a wake-up call whispered beside the bed. He asks us to look honestly at the difference between preparation and avoidance. Some doors must be approached today, because the imagined future where everything is easier may never appear. That thought is severe but liberating. Stoicism teaches strength without hardness and acceptance without surrender. Many people misunderstand the tradition because they imagine a person who feels nothing and cares about nothing. That is not the point. The Stoic aim is not to turn the heart into stone. It is to stop every passing shock from becoming a commander. This distinction changes everything. You can grieve without being destroyed by grief. You can act with compassion without collapsing into panic. You can accept a fact without approving of it. Ancient practitioners were deeply concerned with duty, friendship, justice, and service. Their calm was meant to make action cleaner, not colder. In modern life, this is one reason the philosophy keeps returning. It offers a middle path between emotional chaos and emotional shutdown. Some people find that surprising because they expected a doctrine of suppression. Instead, they find a training in proportion. The wound is acknowledged, the duty remains visible, and the person learns to stand without becoming cruel. Ancient Stoics trained for crisis before crisis ever arrived. They understood that the mind usually fails under pressure when it has never rehearsed pressure. So they practiced in advance. They imagined loss, insult, illness, exile, poverty, and sudden reversal, not as a dark obsession, but as preparation. This can sound strange at first, almost like inviting misfortune. Yet the purpose was the opposite. By meeting trouble mentally before it appeared, they removed some of its power to shock them. A person who has never considered losing comfort may fall apart when comfort disappears. A person who has already asked what would remain can respond with more steadiness. This is one of the most fascinating parts of Stoicism, because it treats imagination as a training ground. The unseen rehearsal becomes a form of armor. Some modern people do something similar when they prepare for emergencies, difficult conversations, or public failure. The old practice survives because surprise is one of fear's favorite weapons. This philosophy influenced emperors, prisoners, athletes, therapists, and entrepreneurs. Its reach is unusual because it crosses worlds that rarely agree on anything. Rulers have used it to stay grounded near power. Captives have used it to preserve identity under pressure. Competitors have used it to perform without being swallowed by results. Therapists have drawn from it to help people examine harmful beliefs. Builders and leaders have used it to make decisions without being ruled by applause or panic. That wide appeal hints at something important. Stoicism is not attached to one lifestyle. It is a set of inner tools that can be carried into almost any situation. Some people see this as evidence that the teaching taps into a deeper pattern of human survival. The uniform changes, the century changes, and the problem remains recognizable. How do you stay clear when the stakes are high? How do you act well when the outcome is uncertain? That question belongs to everyone. Its deepest promise is peace without needing the world to obey you. This may be the most astonishing claim in the whole tradition. Most people search for peace by trying to arrange life into perfect obedience. They want the right weather, the right partner, the right income, the right body, the right reputation, and the right future. The Stoics looked at that strategy and saw a trap. If serenity depends on controlling everything outside the self, then serenity will always remain fragile. One rumor, one delay, one diagnosis, or one disappointment can take it away. Their alternative was not withdrawal from life. It was a different foundation. Peace had to come from the quality of the inner response, not from the perfect behavior of the universe. That idea can feel almost impossible at first. Then it becomes strangely practical. You stop asking reality for a guarantee it never promised. You begin building a steadiness that can travel with you, even through uncertainty, conflict, and change. Zeno founded Stoicism after a shipwreck destroyed his trading fortune. The beginning of the school has the shape of a strange reversal. A merchant loses his cargo, arrives in Athens, and finds himself drawn toward philosophy. What looked like disaster became an entrance. Later, tradition loved this story because it captured a central Stoic theme before the philosophy even had a name. Fortune can take something from you and still deliver you to the work of your life. That does not make loss pleasant. It makes loss mysterious. The same event that ruins one identity may uncover another. Some people have seen in Zeno's story a reminder that the mind is often most teachable after certainty breaks. When the old plan collapses, the deeper question appears. Who are you without the thing you thought defined you? His answer was not to chase another cargo of goods. He began studying how a person should live when external security proves unreliable. That question became a movement. The first Stoic school met under a painted public colonnade. The name itself comes from that location, which makes the origin surprisingly concrete. Students gathered in an open walkway decorated with paintings, not in a hidden chamber far from civic life. This matters because the setting reflected the mission. Philosophy was meant to stand where people could pass by, listen, challenge, and return. It belonged among the noise of the city. The artwork nearby reportedly included scenes connected with public memory and moral seriousness, so the place carried cultural weight before the teachers arrived. Imagine a school whose very walls reminded listeners that human life is full of conflict, consequence, and reputation. The Stoics did not retreat from that atmosphere. They taught inside it. There is something compelling about wisdom beginning in a shared space rather than a private sanctuary. It suggests that the test of insight is not whether it sounds beautiful in isolation. The real test is whether it survives contact with ordinary life. Cleanthes supported his studies by carrying water at night. His life gives the tradition a striking example of persistence without glamour. He was poor, physically strong, and determined enough to do hard labor after dark so he could study during the day. That picture matters because it breaks the idea that philosophy was only for wealthy people with spare time. For him, wisdom had to be purchased through effort, exhaustion, and humility. Ancient critics apparently mocked his slowness, yet he became the second leader of the school. There is a strange lesson there. Not every important mind moves quickly. Some minds deepen by steady pressure. Cleanthes became known for endurance, devotion, and a seriousness that did not depend on brilliance alone. In a culture that often worships speed, his story feels almost rebellious. He reminds us that transformation may belong to the person willing to keep showing up after the dramatic beginning has faded. Sometimes the hidden student becomes the guardian of the teaching. Chrysippus wrote so much that later Stoics called him indispensable. He became the great system builder, the thinker who organized arguments with enormous force and range. Ancient reports describe an almost unbelievable output, with works on logic, ethics, language, fate, emotion, and the structure of reality. His importance was so great that people later suggested the school itself might not have survived without him. That claim may sound exaggerated, but it shows how much intellectual architecture he provided. He took the living impulse of the early movement and gave it structure strong enough to be debated for centuries. What makes him fascinating is not just quantity. It is the role he played in turning a way of life into a complete worldview. He argued about how humans reason, why emotions can mislead, how cause and effect operate, and what it means to live well. Some students want simple advice. Chrysippus reminds us that behind the simple advice stood a vast engine of thought. Roman Stoicism became more practical than the early Greek system. By the time the teaching moved through Roman life, it often sounded less like a technical debate and more like a guide for conduct. The Romans cared deeply about duty, public service, self-command, and honor under pressure. That emphasis gave the philosophy a sharper, everyday edge. Earlier thinkers had built complex theories about nature, logic, and knowledge. Roman writers often asked what a person should do before breakfast, in court, in grief, in temptation, or when insulted by someone powerful. This shift is one reason modern listeners connect so quickly with the later voices. They speak to recognizable situations. A difficult colleague, an anxious morning, a moral compromise, or the fear of public failure all fit naturally into their concerns. The change did not erase the older foundations. It brought them closer to the ground. The result feels like wisdom that has walked through politics, family life, ambition, and fatigue. Musonius Rufus taught that philosophy must be practiced through daily conduct. He was sometimes called the Roman Socrates, and his teaching had a demanding simplicity. Fine words were not enough. A person had to eat, speak, marry, work, endure hardship, and treat others in a way that revealed the training. He pushed philosophy away from display and toward embodiment. This is why he could speak about subjects that may seem ordinary at first, such as food, clothing, education, and family life. For him, these were not minor details. They were the places where character became visible. A person who can discuss virtue brilliantly but behaves badly at home has not understood the lesson. That idea still cuts through modern spiritual performance. It asks whether wisdom survives inconvenience. It asks whether principles appear when nobody is applauding. Some people are fascinated by him because he makes the sacred practical. The path is not somewhere else. It is present in the next choice, the next appetite, and the next word. Stoics treated philosophy as medicine for the mind. This was not a casual metaphor. They believed that false beliefs, uncontrolled desires, and distorted fears could make the soul unwell. Just as a body needs treatment, the inner life needs examination, discipline, and sometimes unpleasant correction. That makes the philosopher less like a lecturer and more like a physician of judgment. The diagnosis begins with a simple observation. People suffer not only because of events, but because of the meanings they attach to events. The treatment involves training attention, challenging impressions, moderating desire, and strengthening moral purpose. This medical view gives Stoicism a fascinating seriousness. It does not flatter the student. It says, you may be participating in your own distress without noticing it. Yet it also offers hope. A condition that is learned can be retrained. Some people find this almost shocking because it turns wisdom from decoration into therapy. The goal is not to sound profound. The goal is to become healthier inside experience. Their word for virtue meant excellence of human character. In modern speech, virtue can sound narrow or moralistic. For the Stoics, it meant something larger and more powerful. It was the fully developed quality of a human being. Just as a good knife cuts well and a good horse runs according to its nature, a good person lives with reason, fairness, courage, and self-command. This gives the idea a practical force. It is not about looking respectable. It is about functioning at the highest level of humanity. The Stoics believed that external success without inner excellence could still leave a person ruined. A brilliant career, admired image, or luxurious life meant little if the character underneath was weak, unjust, frightened, or enslaved by appetite. That is a provocative standard. It asks us to measure life from the inside outward. Some people spend years improving possessions, appearance, and reputation. Stoicism asks whether the person who holds those things is becoming more worthy of holding them. Wisdom was not knowledge alone, but trained judgment under pressure. The Stoics did not confuse cleverness with wisdom. A person might memorize arguments, quote teachers, win debates, and still collapse the moment desire or anger takes command. Real understanding had to appear in the stressful instant, when pride is threatened or fear begins to rise. That is why the tradition puts so much emphasis on practice. Judgment must be trained before the test arrives. Think of someone who knows exactly what patience means, yet explodes in traffic. The definition was present, but the formation was missing. Stoicism aims at formation. It wants the mind to recognize impressions, examine them, and choose in alignment with character. This makes wisdom active rather than ornamental. It is not stored information. It is skill under conditions of heat. Some people find this both humbling and exciting because it means every inconvenience becomes a training site. The philosophy turns ordinary pressure into evidence of what the soul has actually learned. Courage meant meeting difficulty without letting fear become ruler. The Stoics did not teach that brave people feel no fear. That would make courage belong only to the inhuman. Instead, they saw fear as an impression that must be examined before it is obeyed. The body may tighten. The mind may imagine humiliation, pain, loss, or failure. Yet a person can still ask what duty requires. This is where the teaching becomes practical and severe. Courage is not reckless performance. It is the decision not to let fear govern the moral center. That can apply to battle, but it also applies to telling the truth, apologizing sincerely, leaving a corrupt situation, or enduring necessary discomfort. Some people think of courage as a dramatic moment. The Stoics made it a daily discipline. Every avoided conversation and every honest act becomes part of the same training. The frightening thing may remain frightening, but it no longer receives the throne. That is the difference between alarm and mastery. Justice made Stoicism social, not merely private self-improvement. This is one of the most overlooked parts of the tradition. People often imagine Stoicism as a person alone with their thoughts, trying to stay calm while the world burns around them. But the ancient teaching did not stop at inner discipline. It asked what kind of human being you become in relation to others. Justice meant fairness, honesty, reliability, and concern for the common good. Without that, self-control could become nothing more than polished selfishness. A person might be calm, efficient, and emotionally controlled, yet still use those qualities for manipulation or vanity. The Stoics would not call that wisdom. They believed character had to move outward into conduct. The shopkeeper, parent, judge, soldier, ruler, neighbor, and friend all had duties. This makes the philosophy more demanding than a personal coping strategy. It says your inner peace is incomplete if it does not make you more truthful, more useful, and less cruel in the world. Temperance taught that desire becomes safer when it accepts limits. The Stoics saw appetite as a force that can begin as pleasure and end as captivity. Food, comfort, praise, money, attention, and physical ease are not automatically corrupt. The danger begins when the mind starts treating them as necessities for being whole. Then the person no longer enjoys them. The person serves them. Temperance is the art of interrupting that slow takeover. It does not demand hatred of pleasure. It teaches proportion. A meal can be enjoyed without becoming a god. A success can be welcomed without becoming an identity. A luxury can be used without making the soul beg for more. This idea is especially powerful in a world built to stimulate wanting. Ancient Stoicism almost reads like a warning from before the age of endless scrolling and permanent advertising. The more desire expands without discipline, the smaller the person becomes. Limits are not always prisons. Sometimes they are the walls that keep freedom from leaking away. The Stoics divided life into what depends on us and what does not. This division may look obvious, but it becomes astonishing when applied honestly. Most people spend enormous energy trying to govern things that were never placed under their command. They rehearse other people's reactions. They argue with weather, aging, chance, rumor, delay, and history. Meanwhile, the things that truly belong to them are often neglected. Their attention scatters. Their speech becomes careless. Their choices drift. Stoicism begins by drawing a line through experience. On one side are intention, judgment, effort, honesty, and the willingness to act well. On the other side are outcomes, bodies, reputations, possessions, and the future behavior of others. The point is not to stop caring. The point is to stop confusing care with ownership. This single distinction can feel like finding a hidden map beneath daily anxiety. It shows where responsibility lives. It also reveals where the mind has been wasting itself on impossible commands. Reputation mattered less than the character being built in secret. To the Stoics, public image was one of the most seductive traps because it feels close to virtue without being the same thing. A person can be admired for courage while privately ruled by fear. A person can be praised for generosity while secretly acting from vanity. A person can appear wise because they speak slowly and quote impressive names. Yet none of that proves the inner life is ordered. The tradition pushes the listener toward the unseen courtroom inside the self. What are you like when there is no audience? What choice do you make when nobody can reward you? That is where the real work happens. This has a strange power today because modern life turns reputation into a kind of public currency. Stoicism asks whether the currency is counterfeit. It does not forbid being respected. It simply refuses to make respect the measure of the soul. The hidden act may reveal more than the celebrated one. Wealth was acceptable, but never worthy of becoming master. The Stoics were not all wandering ascetics who rejected possessions. Some lived among politics, households, servants, estates, and influence. Their warning was subtler and more dangerous. Money can be used well, but it becomes destructive when it becomes the ruler of judgment. A wealthy person may still be free if fortune is treated as a tool. A poor person may still be enslaved if desire worships riches from a distance. That cuts through the easy story that wealth itself is the whole problem. The deeper question is command. Does the person possess the gold, or does the gold possess the person? Stoicism teaches that external goods can support action, generosity, and stability, but they cannot create moral worth. That means losing them should not destroy the self. Gaining them should not inflate the self. The fascinating tension is that the tradition allows prosperity while demanding inner independence from it. That is harder than simple rejection. Poverty could be practiced briefly to weaken the fear of loss. Some Stoics deliberately stepped down from comfort for short periods. They ate simpler food, wore rougher clothing, or imagined living with fewer protections. This was not theater. It was training against terror. The fear of poverty often controls people who have never experienced it directly. It whispers that losing status or convenience would be unbearable. By touching a smaller version of deprivation, the practitioner discovers that the mind may survive more than it assumes. This does not romanticize real hardship, and it does not make poverty easy. It exposes how much suffering is created by imagination before anything has happened. The exercise is like walking into a dark room and finding that not every shadow is a monster. A person who can endure simplicity for a little while may negotiate with life more bravely. They become harder to blackmail through comfort. That is the hidden point. Fear loses authority when it has been examined in advance. Seneca sometimes tested himself with plain food and rough clothing. His experiment had a sharp purpose. He wanted to know whether he depended on elegance more than he admitted. So he would temporarily abandon finer habits and live with less. Then he could ask the crucial question: is this what I feared? That question sounds almost casual, but it can break a spell. Many anxieties grow because they are never tested. They remain vague, enormous, and theatrical in the mind. Seneca tried to make them concrete. Coarse clothing and basic meals turned imagined catastrophe into direct experience. The result was not a rejection of comfort forever. It was a reminder that comfort should remain a guest, not a tyrant. This is especially intriguing because Seneca himself was connected with great wealth. That contradiction makes the practice more human, not less. He was not pretending temptation did not exist. He was wrestling with it. His life reveals the battle between insight and attachment inside a brilliant mind. Marcus reminded himself that applause vanishes almost immediately. For a ruler, praise could arrive constantly, loudly, and dangerously. Courtiers knew how to flatter power. Crowds could cheer today and forget tomorrow. Marcus saw that fame has a ghost-like quality. It appears solid while people are speaking your name, then dissolves into the next appetite of the crowd. His private notes return again and again to this theme. The dead are forgotten. The famous are misunderstood. The audience itself is mortal. That may sound severe, but it serves a cleansing purpose. If applause is temporary, then living for applause is a poor bargain. A person should act from character rather than hunger for echo. This matters far beyond emperors. Modern life turns approval into numbers, reactions, followers, and visible praise. Stoicism asks what remains when the noise moves on. Did the act have integrity? Was it useful? Was it honest? Those questions survive after the clapping stops. Fame does not. Epictetus said no person can harm your moral purpose without permission. This is one of his most challenging claims, and it should not be softened too quickly. He did not mean that others cannot damage your body, possessions, opportunities, or reputation. He knew very well that they could. His point was aimed at the ruling center of the person. Someone can insult you, but they cannot force you to become petty. Someone can threaten you, but they cannot automatically make cowardice your choice. Someone can wrong you, but they cannot command you to become unjust in return. That separation is immense. It does not erase pain. It identifies the final place of responsibility. The moral purpose is the inner faculty that chooses meaning, action, and assent. Epictetus treated it as the sacred territory of the self. Many people give that territory away without noticing. They let a stranger's words decide their character for the next hour. Stoic training is the refusal to surrender that throw. Stoic calm is not numbness, but disciplined attention. The calm they sought was not the blank face of someone pretending not to care. It was the steadiness of a mind that has learned where to look. When emotion rises, attention usually rushes toward the most frightening interpretation. It exaggerates insult, forecasts disaster, and repeats imagined injuries. The Stoic practices redirection. What is actually happening? What judgment am I adding? What action belongs to me now? Those questions do not erase feeling. They organize it. This is why the tradition can be misunderstood by people who see calm and assume emptiness. A trained mind may be more alert, not less alive. It notices details that panic misses. It preserves energy for the right response. There is an almost cinematic difference between a crowd in confusion and one person who remains clear enough to help. Stoicism is trying to create that person. Not cold, not detached from humanity, simply less available to chaos. Anger was seen as temporary madness wearing the mask of justice. Seneca's treatment of rage is one of the most intense parts of Roman Stoicism. He believed anger often convinces people that they are defending what is right, while secretly dragging them toward ugliness. It promises strength and produces loss of command. It speaks in the language of fairness, then makes the face, voice, and judgment distorted. This is why he considered it so dangerous. Not because injustice should be ignored, but because anger is a reckless advisor. It rushes toward punishment before truth has been fully seen. Anyone who has watched a small irritation become a ruined relationship knows how quickly the possession happens. The Stoic suspicion of anger is not a demand for weakness. It is a demand for cleaner strength. If correction is needed, let reason do it. If protection is needed, let courage do it. Rage may feel powerful, but the Stoics saw a person being driven while imagining they were driving. Seneca believed most rage begins with surprised entitlement. He noticed that people often become furious not simply because something happened, but because they secretly believed it should never happen to them. The insult was not only unpleasant, it violated an expectation of special treatment. The delay was not merely inconvenient, it felt like an offense against personal importance. This is a devastating insight because it turns the investigation inward. Behind many explosions is a hidden script. People should be polite to me. Plans should unfold for me. Bodies should not fail me. Fortune should respect my schedule. When reality breaks that script, anger rises, as if the universe has committed a crime. Seneca's cure begins before the event. Expect human beings to be human. Expect plans to break. Expect friction from a world that was never designed around your preferences. This does not make wrongdoing acceptable. It removes the shock that feeds rage. The less entitled the expectation, the less combustible the mind becomes. The Stoics trained themselves to expect interruption, insult, and delay. This practice can sound pessimistic until you realize how practical it is. The day is rarely ruined by events alone. It is often ruined by the belief that the event should not have appeared. The Stoic morning preparation included a mental preview of ordinary human difficulty. Someone may be rude. A task may take longer than planned. A message may be misunderstood. A body may feel tired. A stranger may act selfishly. Once these possibilities are admitted, they lose some of their power to ambush the mind. The point is not to become gloomy. It is to remove the childish demand that reality arrive polished and obedient. There is a strange calm in expecting friction without hating it. A traveler who expects rough roads packs differently. A listener who expects human imperfection responds differently. Stoicism makes the day less shocking by refusing to pretend that ordinary difficulty is a personal betrayal from the universe. Premeditating trouble was meant to reduce panic, not invite pessimism. This technique is often misunderstood because people hear it as negative thinking. In fact, it is closer to mental inoculation. The practitioner imagines possible setbacks in order to meet them with less confusion later. What would I do if this plan failed? How would I act if I were criticized? What matters if comfort disappears for a while? These questions turn vague dread into specific preparation. Panic thrives in fog. It grows when the mind refuses to look directly. Stoicism brings the feared possibility into view, not to worship it, but to reduce its mysterious power. There is also a moral dimension. If you imagine difficulty before it arrives, you can decide in advance what kind of person you want to be inside it. That decision may hold when the moment becomes loud. The practice is not a prophecy of disaster. It is a rehearsal of steadiness. The future remains uncertain, but the soul becomes less surprised. Amar fati means loving fate rather than merely enduring it. The phrase became famous much later, but it captures a deeply Stoic movement of the mind. Endurance is already difficult. Love is stranger. To love fate is not to pretend every event is pleasant or morally good. It is to stop spending your life in inner rebellion against the fact that this moment has arrived. The Stoic tries to meet reality as material for virtue. Illness can become patience. Failure can become humility. Success can become generosity. Delay can become discipline. The event is not always chosen, but the use of the event remains open. That is where the idea becomes fascinating. It suggests that life is not only something that happens to you, it is something your character can transform. Some people hear this and think it sounds impossible. The Stoics would probably agree that it is difficult. Yet they would ask a sharper question. If fate cannot be unwritten, what will you make from it? Memento Mori made death a guide for living honestly. The reminder of mortality was not meant to be morbid. It was meant to cut through illusion. When people forget death, they often spend years performing for opinions they do not respect, chasing possessions they barely enjoy, and postponing necessary conversations. The Stoics brought death into awareness as a clarifier. If time is limited, then trivial vanity becomes expensive. Resentment becomes heavy. Cowardice becomes harder to justify. This practice does not require obsession with the grave. It requires a truthful relationship with finitude. The last day may not announce itself. That fact gives the present day moral weight. What should be repaired? What should be released? What should be done while the chance still exists? Some people experience this teaching as dark at first, then strangely life-giving. Death stops being only an ending. It becomes a stern teacher standing beside each choice, asking whether this is truly how you wish to spend your brief human visit. Marcus Aurelius used mortality to make petty concerns look smaller. His position exposed him to endless demands, complaints, ceremonies, enemies, and ambitions. It would have been easy to treat every irritation as enormous. Instead, he repeatedly widened the frame. He remembered that generations vanish, cities change, bodies return to the elements, and famous names fade into silence. This was not nihilism. It was perspective. By placing daily annoyances against the scale of mortality, he reduced their false importance. The rude person, the delayed plan, the hunger for praise, and the sting of criticism all shrink when seen from the edge of a lifetime. That does not mean duties disappear. It means they can be performed without theatrical suffering. There is something almost vertigo-inducing about this practice. The emperor looks at his own empire and reminds himself that it too is passing. A modern listener can use the same lens on smaller troubles. The question becomes simple. Will this deserve the size I am giving it? Stoics believed every morning should prepare the soul for friction. The day, in their view, should not begin by drifting. It should begin with orientation. Before meeting the world, the practitioner remembers what kinds of things may appear and what kind of person they intend to remain. This is not a motivational slogan. It is a defensive art. The mind that wakes without preparation can be seized by the first irritation. A careless comment, a broken plan, or a wave of desire can set the tone before reason has even arrived. Morning reflection places reason at the gate. It says, "Today I may meet vanity, impatience, dishonesty, confusion, or my own weakness. None of this is new. None of it cancels my duty. The power of this routine lies in its timing. You train before the impact." Many people try to become wise only after the damage is done. Stoicism asks you to meet the day already accompanied by your principles. Evening reflection turned each day into a quiet moral classroom. At night, the Stoic could review the day without the same heat that existed inside it. What did I do well? Where did I lose command? Which fear spoke too loudly? Which desire made an exaggerated promise? This practice transformed ordinary life into continuous instruction. Nothing had to be wasted. An argument became material. A moment of laziness became evidence. A generous act became encouragement. The point was not self-hatred. It was correction. Like a craftsperson studying the marks of the work, the practitioner studied the traces of character. This is powerful because most people repeat days without learning from them. The same irritation returns. The same excuse returns. The same regret returns. Evening reflection interrupts that loop. It creates a small tribunal of honesty before sleep. Some people might call that severe. Yet it can also feel merciful. The day is not merely gone. It has been harvested for wisdom before it disappears. Journaling became a way to catch the mind before it wandered. Writing gave the Stoic practitioner a place to see thought from a short distance. Inside the head, fear and desire can sound persuasive because they speak so quickly. On a page, they slow down. A complaint becomes visible. An excuse becomes less convincing. A principle can be repeated until it begins to carve a path through confusion. Marcus Aurelius used written reminders to confront himself, not to entertain a reader. That private quality is part of their power. The page was not a stage. It was a training ground. A person could ask, what am I assuming? What am I avoiding? What does reason require now? In this sense, journaling is not merely expression. It is interception. The mind starts running toward fantasy, resentment, or fear. The written word catches it by the sleeve. Some people find that almost uncanny. A few lines at the right moment can reveal the hidden machinery of an entire mood. Epictetus compared untrained desire to a person dragged by circumstance. His image is severe because it exposes how helpless the mind can become when wanting is undisciplined. A person may believe they are making free choices, while in reality they are being pulled by praise, pleasure, fear, status, and avoidance. Desire says, "Follow me," and the person obeys without asking where the road leads. Epictetus wanted students to see that slavery can exist inside craving. The external world only has to offer or threaten the right object, and the untrained person moves. This makes freedom much more demanding than doing whatever you feel. True freedom requires examining what has gained power over you. Why does this approval matter so much? Why does this comfort feel non-negotiable? Why does this fear command immediate obedience? The Stoic answer is not to kill all wanting. It is to educate desire until it stops dragging the soul across the ground. Without that training, circumstances hold the leash. Stoicism asks you to choose your response before habit chooses it. Much of life is lived on automatic pilot. Someone criticizes us, and defensiveness appears. A temptation appears, and the hand reaches. A delay happens, and irritation begins speaking before reason can stand up. The Stoics were fascinated by this moment because it reveals how little freedom exists when habit is left unexamined. The practice is to create a gap, not a dramatic gap, sometimes only a breath. In that space, the person can ask whether the old reaction deserves another performance. This is where philosophy becomes intensely practical. It does not wait for grand moral crises. It enters the ordinary second before a word is spoken or a choice is repeated. The old pattern may still be strong, but it is no longer invisible. That is the beginning of change. Some people spend years trying to transform their lives at the level of circumstance. Stoicism begins closer to the source. At the moment, response is born. The pause before reaction became a place of inner freedom. There is a hidden chamber between being struck by an impression and surrendering to it. The Stoics built much of their training around finding that chamber. An insult lands. The body flares. A thought appears. He disrespected me. I must answer now. But before the reply leaves the mouth, another possibility exists. Wait. Examine. Choose. That pause may be small, but it is one of the most important spaces in human life. Families are damaged when it disappears. Careers are harmed when it disappears. Whole futures can be altered by a sentence spoken too quickly. Stoicism treats the pause as a sacred practical skill. It is not passivity. It is command returning to the center. The more a person practices it, the less they are governed by impact. Some people discover that the world has not been controlling them as much as their unexamined first reactions have. The pause reveals the difference. Ancient practitioners rehearsed losing comforts to discover what remained. The question underneath the exercise was simple and unsettling. Who are you when convenience is removed? A person may believe they are patient, brave, generous, or clear-minded, but comfort can hide weakness. Take away the soft bed, the familiar meal, the flattering audience, or the easy schedule, and another self may appear. The Stoics did not explore this to punish the body. They wanted to expose dependency before real loss arrived. This kind of rehearsal has a strange, almost experimental quality. Reduce the conditions and observe the soul. Does gratitude remain? Does dignity remain? Does reason remain? Such practices can be small and temporary, but their revelations can be large. A person may discover that they need far less than they feared. Or they may discover how tightly they have been held by small luxuries. Either finding is useful. The comfort was not the enemy. The untested dependence on it was the hidden danger. Preferred indifference included health, wealth, status, and comfort. This phrase can sound confusing until its meaning becomes clear. The Stoics did not say these things are worthless. They said these things are not the same as virtue. Health is naturally preferable to illness. Resources can help a person act. A good reputation may make service easier. Comfort may support rest and stability. Yet, none of them guarantees a good character. A healthy person can be cruel. A wealthy person can be cowardly. A respected person can be dishonest. A comfortable person can become shallow. By placing these goods in a secondary category, Stoicism rearranges the hierarchy of life. It allows preference without worship. You may choose what is useful, but you must not build your moral identity on it. This is one of the tradition's most subtle insights. It refuses both indulgence and performative rejection. The outer condition may matter in practice, but the inner quality of choice matters in the deepest sense. These things were useful, but not the source of goodness. The Stoic distinction becomes powerful when life gives or removes external advantages. Imagine two people receiving the same promotion. One becomes more arrogant. The other becomes more responsible. The promotion itself did not create goodness. It revealed and tested character. The same can be said of health, beauty, influence, intelligence, and opportunity. Each can be used well or badly. This means that the moral value lies not in the possession, but in the use. A knife can prepare food or threaten a neighbor. Money can relieve suffering or feed vanity. Status can protect the vulnerable or inflate the ego. The object is not the soul. The user matters. This insight protects a person from being dazzled by appearances. It also prevents despair when externals are reduced. If goodness depended entirely on fortune, then unlucky people would be morally doomed. The Stoics rejected that completely. They placed the highest human possibility where chance could not fully own it. A Stoic could value success without becoming owned by outcomes. This is one reason the philosophy appeals to people who live under pressure. It does not tell them to stop caring about results. A doctor should want the patient to recover. A teacher should want the student to learn. A builder should want the bridge to stand. The difference is that the Stoic locates moral worth in the quality of the effort and intention, not in the final result alone. Outcomes are tangled with chance, other people, timing, resources, and forces no individual can fully command. If your peace depends entirely on results, then your inner life is rented out to fortune. Stoicism offers another way. Work carefully. Prepare well. Act honestly. Then release the demand that reality must confirm your worth. This is not laziness. It may produce better action because panic is removed from the center. Success can be welcomed. Failure can be studied. Neither needs to become the master of the self. Failure became information, not a verdict on the self. The Stoic approach changes the emotional meaning of a setback. Failure is not ignored, excused, or covered with pleasant words. It is examined. What was within my control? What did I misjudge? What can be improved? What was never mine to command? These questions transform the event from a sentence into a teacher. That distinction is enormous. Many people treat failure as a revelation of identity. The business failed, so I am a failure. The conversation went badly, so I am hopeless. The attempt collapsed, so the future is closed. Stoicism interrupts that chain. It separates the event from the moral worth of the person. A failed action can still become useful if it sharpens perception and conduct. This does not make disappointment painless. It makes it workable. Some of the strongest lives are built by people who learn to extract instruction without turning every wound into a permanent name. The record changed. The soul remained trainable. The discipline of desire teaches wanting only what cannot enslave you. This is one of the most radical parts of Stoic training because it does not merely ask what you want. It asks what your wanting is doing to you. Some desires make life richer. Others quietly place a collar around the mind. Approval can become a master. Luxury can become a master. Revenge can become a master. Even certainty can become a master when a person cannot move without it. The Stoics aimed desire toward virtue because virtue was always available as a direction of choice. You may not obtain the outcome. You may not receive the praise. You may not keep the possession. But you can still aim to act with wisdom, courage, justice, and restraint. That target cannot be stolen in the same way. The teaching is not small. It asks for a complete re-education of longing. Instead of asking, how do I get everything I crave? It asks, which cravings are making me less free? The discipline of action turns good intentions into service. Stoicism does not let a person hide forever inside noble thoughts. It asks what the next appropriate act is. Help the friend. Tell the truth. Keep the promise. Do the work. Protect what is entrusted to you. This discipline gives the philosophy muscle. Without it, reflection can become a pleasant chamber where the self admires its own seriousness. The Stoics believed human beings are made for participation in a shared world. That means wisdom must eventually leave the head and enter conduct. The right action may be small, unseen, and inconvenient. It may involve patience with a child, fairness in business, restraint during conflict, or courage in a room where honesty is costly. The size of the stage is not the point. The quality of the act is the point. Some people look for destiny in dramatic signs. Stoicism points toward the duty directly in front of you and asks whether you will meet it well. The discipline of assent guards the mind from false impressions. This is where Stoicism becomes almost like a hidden security system for consciousness. An impression appears and it wants immediate admission. Someone frowns, and the mind says, "They hate me." A plan changes, and the mind says, "Everything is ruined." A craving rises, and the mind says this must be satisfied now. The Stoics believed the first appearance is not yet truth. It is only a visitor at the gate. Assent is the moment you allow it inside and treat it as reality. That means the mind can be trained to inspect what it receives. Is this certain or only dramatic? Is this useful or merely loud? Is this a fact or a fear wearing a costume? The practice gives ordinary life an almost detective-like quality. You begin to notice how many inner stories enter without being questioned. The world may still be difficult, but fewer illusions are allowed to rule from inside. Impressions arrive quickly, but agreement remains a choice. The Stoics were unusually realistic about the speed of the mind. They did not pretend that first reactions can always be prevented. A loud sound may startle you. An insult may sting. A memory may tighten the body before reason speaks. These arrivals are fast, and often they come before permission. The important point is what happens next. Do you crown the impression as truth, or do you hold it at a distance? This is one of the most useful parts of the tradition because it removes unnecessary shame. Having a first reaction does not mean you have failed. The deeper training begins when you decide whether to join it. A wave may rise, but you do not have to become the wave. That small difference has enormous consequences. It can protect a relationship, prevent a reckless decision, or save a day from being seized by a passing mood that only seemed like destiny. Stoics noticed that first reactions are not moral failures. This is a merciful insight in a philosophy often mistaken for severity. The ancient teachers understood that the body and mind can be struck before character has time to respond. A person may blush, tremble, flinch, feel jealousy, or experience sudden fear. These movements may appear without invitation. The moral question begins after the first movement. Do you feed the jealousy with stories? Do you turn fear into cowardice? Do you let irritation become cruelty? That distinction helps people stop confusing human sensitivity with ethical collapse. It also makes responsibility sharper. You are not condemned because a reaction appeared. You are responsible for what you build from it. This can change the way someone relates to anxiety, anger, grief, or shame. Instead of saying, "I should not have felt anything," the Stoic asks, "What will I consent to now?" The first spark may not be chosen. The fire still requires fuel. What matters is whether the mind endorses the first impulse. A sudden urge is not yet a decision. That was one of the Stoics' most practical discoveries. The impulse may say, answer sharply, spend recklessly, hide the truth, chase the praise, avoid the task, or punish the person who embarrassed you. For a moment, it can feel as if the command has already been given. Stoic practice slows the process enough to expose the hidden step. The mind must endorse the impulse before it becomes action. That endorsement can be refused. This is not easy because impulses often arrive with emotional force. They do not speak politely. They rush in like messengers from a king. Yet the Stoic remembers that force is not authority. A craving can be strong and still be foolish. A fear can be vivid and still be misleading. The fascinating part is that freedom may not begin with feeling differently. It may begin with refusing to sign the order. This insight made Stoicism surprisingly close to modern cognitive therapy. Long before clinical offices and psychology textbooks, Stoic teachers were already investigating the relationship between thought, emotion, and distress. They noticed that people are not only affected by events, but by the meanings they attach to events. That idea later became central to many therapeutic approaches. The connection is fascinating because it suggests that ancient philosophy was not merely abstract speculation. It was a practical laboratory for the mind. A student learned to identify a belief, challenge its accuracy, and replace it with something more disciplined. The method feels strikingly modern. An insult becomes evidence to examine. A fear becomes a prediction to test. A failure becomes a story that may be revised. This does not mean Stoicism and therapy are identical. Their goals and settings differ, yet the family resemblance is real. Both teach that the mind can participate in its own healing by learning how to question the thoughts that intensify suffering. Albert Ellis credited Stoic ideas in developing rational emotive behavior therapy. One of the more surprising modern bridges to ancient wisdom runs through 20th century psychotherapy. Ellis saw that emotional disturbance often grows from rigid beliefs about what must happen. People tell themselves they must be approved, must never fail, must not be frustrated, and must be treated fairly at all times. When reality refuses these demands, distress intensifies. That pattern echoes Stoic teaching very strongly. The ancient philosophers had already warned that suffering becomes heavier when desire insists that the world obey private expectations. Ellis turned this kind of insight into a structured therapeutic method. The result is a strange meeting across centuries. A teacher from the modern consulting room reaches back toward thinkers who spoke in marketplaces, lecture halls, and imperial chambers. Some people find this connection mind-blowing because it reveals the durability of the problem. Technology changes, clothing changes, language changes, but the human mind still traps itself with exaggerated demands. The old diagnosis remains alive. Cognitive reframing echoes the Stoic focus on interpretation. The basic move is simple, but the effects can be enormous. A person learns to look again at the meaning they have assigned to an event. A rejection may become information instead of proof of worthlessness. A delay may become an inconvenience instead of a conspiracy against one's peace. A criticism may become useful material instead of an attack on identity. The event has not vanished. The frame has changed. Stoicism practiced this long before the phrase became common. The ancient teacher would ask whether the distress comes from reality itself or from the judgment added to it. This is not about pretending that everything is good. It is about refusing to let the first interpretation become the final prison. Some people experience reframing as almost eerie because the outer scene remains the same while the inner world alters. The room has not changed. The story has. And when the story changes, the nervous system may follow. Modern resilience training often borrows from ancient Stoic exercises. In boardrooms, sports teams, military programs, and personal development circles, old Stoic methods keep appearing under new names. People practice focusing on what they can control. They imagine setbacks before they happen. They separate effort from outcome. They rehearse values under pressure. The packaging may look modern, but the skeleton is ancient. This is fascinating because it suggests that the tradition works like a durable tool rather than a museum artifact. It can be lifted out of marble statues and placed into stressful contemporary life. A person preparing for a difficult negotiation may unknowingly use the same mental pattern as an ancient student preparing for insult or exile. The contexts differ, but the inner mechanics remain familiar. What will disturb me? What is mine to do? What must I release? Some people enjoy this because it feels like discovering a hidden lineage beneath today's performance culture. The old philosophers are still coaching, even when their names are forgotten. Some athletes use Stoic routines to stay steady under pressure. Competition exposes the mind in a brutal way. The body can be prepared, the strategy can be sound, and the talent can be real. Then pressure arrives, and the inner voice begins to interfere. What if I fail? What will people say? What if this moment defines me? Stoic routines help by returning attention to controllable actions. Breathe, prepare, execute the next movement. Accept that the scoreboard is influenced by many forces. This does not remove ambition. It cleans ambition of panic. The athlete learns to care intensely without tying identity to every bounce, decision, or mistake. That is why the philosophy fits performance so well. It teaches focus without emotional possession. A missed shot becomes feedback. A hostile crowd becomes noise. A rival becomes a test rather than a threat to existence. Some competitors discover that the less they worship outcomes, the better they perform. The old wisdom becomes practical in the arena. Military communities have embraced Stoicism for discipline and emotional endurance. The attraction is easy to understand. Soldiers face uncertainty, discomfort, fear, command structures, separation from home, and the possibility of sudden loss. A philosophy that teaches control of judgment, loyalty to duty, and composure under strain naturally speaks to that world. But the deeper reason may be more human than military. People in extreme conditions need a way to remain internally organized when external order breaks down. Stoicism offers language for that. It says that circumstances may become harsh, but moral purpose can still be guarded. It says fear may be present, but it need not govern conduct. It says action should follow duty rather than panic. This does not make danger glamorous, and it does not erase the cost of trauma. It simply explains why the old teaching keeps reappearing wherever pressure is real. When life becomes uncertain, people look for a center that cannot be easily taken. Stoicism offers one. James Stockdale used Epictetus while surviving years of captivity. His story is one of the most dramatic modern examples of Stoicism under extreme conditions. Before captivity, he had studied Epictetus seriously. Later, those teachings became more than ideas. They became a mental lifeline. In confinement, he could not control the guards, the isolation, the physical conditions, or the length of his ordeal. But he could work to control his judgments, choices, loyalties, and sense of duty. That distinction became vital. Epictetus had taught that external freedom can be taken, while the inner faculty of choice must be defended. Stockdale found himself living inside that lesson with terrible intensity. What makes the story so compelling is the collision between ancient classroom teaching and modern survival. The text was no longer a book on a shelf. It became a set of tools used in the dark. Some people read this and realize Stoicism is not only for minor frustrations. Its principles were tested where illusion had no room. Stoicism helped Stockdale separate external suffering from inner command. The separation did not remove pain, danger, or uncertainty. It gave him a way to avoid complete psychological capture. His captors could impose conditions, but they could not automatically decide the meaning of his choices. This is the hard center of Stoic endurance. There is what is done to you, and there is what you do with the remaining space of agency. In ordinary life, that space may be large. In extreme life, it may become very small. Yet even then, the Stoic insists that it matters. A decision to resist despair, protect others, maintain dignity, or refuse false confession can become an act of inner command. The story fascinates people because it pushes the philosophy to its limit. It asks whether ideas about freedom survive when comfort, privacy, and certainty disappear. Stockdale's example does not make suffering simple. It reveals that the human center can remain active even when the outer world has narrowed drastically. The philosophy does not promise comfort, only steadiness. This is why Stoicism can feel both severe and trustworthy. It does not say life will reward you for being good. It does not say the universe will arrange events around your preferences. It does not claim that discipline will prevent grief, betrayal, illness, aging, or disappointment. Instead, it offers a different kind of promise. You can train the mind to stand more firmly inside whatever comes. That promise is less glamorous than perfect happiness, but it may be more honest. Comfort depends on many things beyond command. Steadiness depends more directly on practice, perspective, and character. A person who understands this stops using philosophy as a bargain with fate. They stop saying, "If I live wisely, nothing painful should happen." The older message is harder. Pain may happen. Loss may happen. Confusion may happen. But the self does not have to become shapeless inside them. That is a quieter victory, and perhaps a deeper one. Its discipline begins with accepting reality before trying to improve it. This is not resignation. It is accuracy. A person cannot respond well to a situation they refuse to see. Denial wastes the first and often most important energy. It says, "This should not be happening," long after it is clearly happening. Stoicism starts by removing that argument. The fact is here. The question now is what reason and character require. This sequence matters. Acceptance comes first because action built on fantasy is weak. Imagine a doctor who refuses to accept the diagnosis, a captain who denies the storm, or a leader who ignores the weakness in a plan. Improvement becomes possible only after reality has been admitted. The Stoic mind does not bow to facts because it loves every fact. It bows because facts are the ground on which action must stand. There is a strange strength in this. The person stops wasting life in protest against the already present and begins working with what is actually available. Stoics believed complaint wastes energy that action could use. They were not against naming a problem clearly. They were against circling it endlessly with resentment and helpless speech. Complaint often gives the feeling of movement, while nothing improves. It burns attention, feeds irritation, and turns the mind into a courtroom where reality is constantly on trial. The Stoic response is sharper. Is there something to do? Then do it. Is there nothing to do? Then train acceptance and preserve strength. This may sound blunt, but it can be liberating. Many people lose more energy describing their frustration than the task itself would require. Others keep repeating how unfair something is while avoiding the difficult action that remains possible. Stoicism interrupts that cycle. It asks whether your words are serving correction or merely feeding emotion. This does not silence moral protest. Justice still matters. But even protest must become action, not self-intoxication. Speech should gather strength toward the useful. Otherwise, it becomes another chain. They also warned that action without wisdom becomes restless noise. The Stoics valued action, but not frantic activity. Doing more is not the same as doing what is right. A person can be busy because they are afraid to think. They can chase projects, arguments, reforms, punishments, and ambitions without ever asking whether the movement is guided by reason. This warning feels especially relevant in an age that worships productivity. The calendar may be full while the soul is disordered. The Stoic asks a slower question. What is this action serving? Is it duty, vanity, fear, revenge, or distraction? That question can transform a life. It may reveal that certain battles are not noble. they are merely addictive. It may show that some effort is impressive, but unnecessary. Wisdom gives action direction, proportion, and timing. Without it, strength becomes scattered. A hammer swung wildly may still make a loud sound. It may also break what should have been repaired. Stoicism wants the hand guided before the blow falls. Nature meant the rational order of reality, not wilderness alone. When the Stoics spoke about nature, they were not simply telling people to admire trees or live outdoors. They meant the whole structure of existence, including cause, change, interdependence, mortality, reason, and human social life. To live according to nature was to understand the kind of universe we inhabit and the kind of creatures we are within it. This is much larger than a lifestyle slogan. It suggests that wisdom comes from alignment with reality's pattern rather than rebellion against it. Human beings are mortal, social, rational, vulnerable, and dependent on one another. Any life built against those facts will create friction. Some people hear the phrase and imagine something vague. In the Stoic system, it was a profound claim about belonging. You are not separate from the order of things. Your choices participate in it. The task is to live as a conscious part of the whole, rather than as a confused fragment fighting the design. Living according to nature meant living according to reason and character. For the Stoics, a human being fulfills nature not by following every impulse, but by developing the capacities that make humans distinct. Hunger is natural, but so is judgment. Fear is natural, but so is courage. Anger may arise naturally, but reason can decide whether it deserves obedience. This is why their idea of nature does not mean doing whatever feels spontaneous. It means living in a way that honors our highest faculty. Character is nature matured through discipline. Reason is not a cold enemy of life. It is the guiding power that helps desire, emotion, and action find their proper place. This teaching becomes fascinating when applied to modern self-expression. Not every urge is the true self. Some urges are just noise, habit, or wound. Stoicism asks us to look deeper. The authentic human life is not the life with no restraint. It is the life where the best part governs the rest. The Stoic cosmos was interconnected through order, cause, and consequence. Their universe was not random debris drifting without relation. It was a living structure of connections, where every event emerged within a chain of causes. This gave their ethics a cosmic backdrop. Your action is not isolated. Your words affect another mind. Another mind affects a household. A household affects a city. The pattern widens beyond what can be seen. Some people find this almost uncanny because it makes ordinary conduct feel woven into something vast. A careless insult, a patient reply, a just decision, or a selfish shortcut can ripple through relationships and circumstances. The Stoics did not need modern systems theory to sense interdependence. They already saw that nothing stands completely alone. This is why self-mastery mattered. A disordered person does not merely suffer privately. They release disorder into the world. A disciplined person may become a stabilizing cause in the chain. The cosmos is enormous, but the next human choice still enters it. Human beings were seen as citizens of one larger world. This idea was bold in a time when identity was often tied tightly to city, class, language, and empire. The Stoics argued that reason links human beings across boundaries. Beneath local customs and political divisions, there is a shared membership in a wider human community. That may sound familiar now, but in the ancient world, it carried real force. It challenged the idea that moral concern stops at the city wall. If all people participating reason, then strangers cannot be treated as mere background figures in your private drama. This does not erase local duties. It expands the moral horizon around them. A person belongs to family, neighborhood, and nation, but also to humanity. Some people are fascinated by this because it feels strangely ahead of its time. The Stoics built a spiritual citizenship before modern global language existed. The passport was not paper. It was the capacity for reason, responsibility, and mutual recognition. This cosmopolitan view challenged narrow loyalty to tribe or city. Ancient life could be intensely local. Your city shaped your laws, gods, status, enemies, and identity. Against this background, the Stoic widening of allegiance was a quiet revolution. It did not say that local bonds are meaningless. It said they are not the final boundary of duty. A foreigner is still human. An enemy may still share the same rational nature. A slave, beggar, ruler, or merchant all exist within the same moral universe. This has uncomfortable implications. It means prejudice is not only socially harmful, it is a failure of perception. The person trapped in tribal hatred sees too little of reality. Some listeners may find this surprisingly relevant today, when groups still compete to shrink sympathy. Stoicism asks whether loyalty has become blindness. True belonging should not require the denial of another person's humanity. The wider circle may be harder to live by, but it makes the soul less cramped. Hierocles imagined care expanding outward in widening circles. He described a powerful exercise in moral imagination. Picture the self at the center, then family, friends, neighbors, fellow citizens, foreigners, and finally, all humankind in expanding rings of concern. The task is not to flatten every relationship into sameness. It is to draw the outer circles inward through attention, speech, and conduct. That image is simple enough for anyone to understand, yet it carries enormous depth. It suggests that ethics is a training of nearness. People far away feel unreal until the mind practices recognizing them. A stranger becomes less abstract when you imagine their fears, hopes, parents, children, hunger, and grief. Some people see this as one of the most humane techniques in ancient philosophy. It does not depend on sentimentality. It depends on disciplined recognition. The circle can always widen a little. The person outside concern can be brought closer. Moral growth becomes the art of reducing unnecessary distance. Family, neighbors, strangers, and humanity all belonged within moral concern. The Stoic view of duty had layers. It did not ask someone to neglect their child in order to love humanity in the abstract. It asked them to understand that every relationship carries a form of responsibility. Family may require tenderness and patience. Neighbors may require fairness and cooperation. Strangers may require honesty, restraint, and basic respect. Humanity may require remembering that no person is merely an obstacle or tool. This layered concern prevents two common failures. One failure is selfish isolation, where only private comfort matters. The other is grand moral speech that ignores the person directly beside you. Stoicism binds the near and far together. The test of universal concern may begin with how you treat the tired cashier, the difficult relative, or the person who cannot benefit your reputation. That makes the teaching concrete. Humanity is not only an idea. It appears repeatedly in ordinary faces, brief encounters, and inconvenient obligations. Stoic justice required kindness without depending on emotional warmth. This is a subtle and useful teaching. The Stoics knew that affectionate feelings are not always available on command. You may not feel fondness toward a rude stranger, a difficult colleague, or someone who's disappointed you. But justice does not wait for warmth. It asks for right treatment regardless of mood. That means kindness becomes a discipline rather than a lucky feeling. You can speak fairly when you do not feel tender. You can refuse cruelty when sympathy is weak. You can help because the action is right, not because the heart is glowing. This has a powerful practical effect. It makes moral life more reliable. If goodness depends entirely on emotion, then goodness rises and falls with sleep, stress, appetite, and personal preference. Stoicism wants something sturdier. The kind act may begin from principle before feeling arrives. Sometimes feeling follows. Sometimes it does not. The deed can still be clean. Forgiveness became easier when ignorance was seen behind wrongdoing. The Stoics often treated harmful behavior as a failure of understanding. A cruel person is chasing a false good. A dishonest person is confused about advantage. An arrogant person mistakes superiority for worth. This view does not erase responsibility, but it changes the emotional atmosphere around blame. Instead of imagining the wrongdoer as a creature of pure evil, the Stoic sees a damaged or misled judgment at work. That makes forgiveness more possible because hatred loses some of its fuel. The person who harmed you may still need correction, distance, or consequences. Yet your own soul does not have to become infected by endless contempt. This teaching can feel strange because anger wants the wrongdoer to be completely monstrous. Stoicism resists that simplification. It says, human beings do harm because they misunderstand what is truly good. Seeing that ignorance can soften the grip of revenge. It can also remind us that our own judgments require guarding. Marcus often reminded himself that difficult people are still relatives in nature. He expected to meet the ungrateful, arrogant, deceitful, jealous, and selfish. Yet he told himself that these people share the same deeper nature. They are not aliens dropped into his day to ruin it. They are human beings, shaped by mistaken judgments, limited vision, and the same fragile condition. This reminder was not sentimental. It was strategic. If he saw difficult people as monsters, anger would rule him. If he saw them as kin in the larger order of nature, patience became more possible. That does not mean allowing every behavior. A ruler still had to judge, correct, and protect. But the inner posture changed. The other person's failure did not have to produce hatred in him. This is one of the most challenging Stoic exercises because it applies exactly where the ego resists it most. The person irritating you is not outside humanity. They are proof of why philosophy must be practiced among people. He ruled an empire while studying how not to be ruled by ego. The paradox is extraordinary. Marcus had access to a level of authority most people can barely imagine. His decisions affected armies, laws, provinces, and countless lives. Yet his private writing repeatedly turns against pride. He warns himself not to become intoxicated by status. He reminds himself that the body is temporary, fame is unstable, and power does not make a person wise. That inner struggle may be more fascinating than the public image of the philosopher king. Imagine holding immense authority and still having to write reminders against arrogance. It reveals that ego does not disappear when someone becomes successful. It may grow more dangerous because fewer people dare to challenge it. Stoicism became a counterweight within him. A throne can distort the soul by making every preference seem important. His practice was an attempt to remain human, while surrounded by symbols that encouraged him to forget his limits. Power tested Stoicism more severely than poverty ever could. Hardship exposes one set of weaknesses, but power exposes another. Poverty may test endurance, patience, and courage. Power tests restraint, humility, justice, and truthfulness. A person with little influence may wish to be cruel and lack the means. A person with great authority can turn moods into policy, vanity into punishment, and insecurity into command. This is why Stoicism in a ruler becomes so dramatic. The stakes are higher because inner disorder travels outward through institutions and decisions. If the powerful person cannot govern desire, many others may pay the price. The ancient tradition understood that character matters most when consequences multiply. Power does not create the soul's defects. It magnifies them. It gives them tools. Some people think the greatest test of philosophy is suffering. Stoicism adds another possibility. Perhaps the greater test is getting what you wanted and discovering whether you can remain just, measured, and awake once the world starts obeying. Seneca became wealthy while writing sharply about wealth's dangers. This contradiction has followed him for centuries, and it makes him more interesting rather than less. He wrote about simplicity, moderation, and freedom from possessions while living close to imperial power and enjoying enormous resources. Critics have never stopped pointing to the tension. Yet the tension itself reveals a central human problem. It is one thing to denounce temptation from a distance. It is another to study it while standing inside its palace. Seneca knew wealth could support generosity, education, leisure, and influence. He also knew it could breed fear, vanity, dependence, and moral compromise. His writings often sound like a man warning himself as much as anyone else. That gives them a restless honesty. He is not the flawless saint above the marketplace. He is a brilliant thinker inside the trap he is describing. Some people find that more valuable. The contradiction becomes a mirror. We too often understand dangers that we have not fully escaped. His life shows the tension between teaching wisdom and living it. Seneca's story is so compelling because it refuses to become clean and simple. He served near dangerous power, accumulated wealth, advised an emperor, wrote profound moral essays, and faced political suspicion. His life raises uncomfortable questions. Can a person teach freedom while entangled in ambition? Can true insight coexist with compromise? Does hypocrisy cancel wisdom, or does it reveal how difficult wisdom is to embody? These questions keep him alive as a figure of debate. The Stoic tradition is not weakened by this complexity. It becomes more human. A teaching may be higher than the teacher's own performance. That does not excuse failure, but it prevents us from pretending that insight automatically produces perfection. Many people know exactly what they should do and still struggle to do it. Seneca stands in that difficult territory. His writings invite us upward, while his biography warns us not to confuse eloquence with completion. The gap is where the real work begins. Stoicism is powerful partly because its heroes were imperfect. This may be one reason the tradition feels more believable than a polished legend. Its major figures were not untouched beings, floating above ordinary weakness. They faced vanity, ambition, grief, illness, political danger, anger, compromise, and doubt. That imperfection matters because the philosophy was never presented as a magic transformation. It was a training. The student does not wake up one morning beyond fear. The student notices fear sooner. The student does not become immune to praise. The student learns to distrust the sweetness of praise before it becomes a drug. This makes Stoicism strangely encouraging. It does not say, "Become flawless before you begin." It says, "Begin where the disorder is visible." Some people are drawn to perfect teachers because perfection feels safe. Stoicism gives us something more useful. It gives us human teachers under pressure. Their failures do not destroy the message. They reveal why the message was needed in the first place. The tradition leaves room for progress rather than flawless performance. A beginner can misunderstand this philosophy and turn it into another impossible standard. Never feel fear. Never become angry. Never care about praise. Never stumble. But the ancient path was more practical than that. It recognized growth as a process of repeated correction. You notice the old reaction sooner. You recover from irritation faster. You choose the better word in a moment when the worse word almost escaped. These are not small victories. They are evidence that the inner training is changing the shape of conduct. Stoicism is demanding, but it is not built only for sages who have reached some unreachable summit. It is built for people in motion. This matters because perfection can become an excuse to quit. Progress keeps the door open. A single honest improvement proves the path is alive. The person is not yet free from every chain, but they have begun to hear the metal when it moves. Prokopton was the Stoic word for someone still learning. The term refers to a person making progress, and it may be one of the most compassionate ideas in the whole tradition. It names the human middle ground between ignorance and wisdom. Most people live there. They are not sages, but they are not asleep either. They are beginning to see their patterns. They still fail, but failure now teaches them something. They still react, but reaction no longer feels like the whole self. A word like this matters because it gives dignity to the unfinished student. The path does not require pretending to have arrived. In fact, pretending would be a step backward. To be in progress is to admit that character can be trained. That is a thrilling possibility. It means your past reactions are not final evidence. They are material. The person who studies desire, judgment, fear, and duty becomes an apprentice to their own better nature. Progress mattered more than pretending to have already arrived. The Stoics had little patience for philosophical performance. A person could memorize teachings, speak gravely, and adopt a serious expression while remaining inwardly undisciplined. That kind of display is tempting because it gives the reward of wisdom without the cost. Real progress is quieter and harder to fake. It appears in how a person handles delay, criticism, desire, disappointment, and responsibility. Does the insult still rule the whole afternoon? Does success still inflate the ego beyond recognition? Does fear still make every decision? These are the real examinations. Stoicism asks for evidence in conduct rather than costume. Some people love secret doctrines and hidden initiations, but the Stoic test is more exposed. The world itself becomes the examiner. Every day provides difficult material. The unfinished practitioner has no need to pretend. A sincere step is worth more than a dramatic mask. The path is measured by transformation, not by the image of having transformed. A single bad day did not cancel the entire practice. This is crucial because shame can destroy discipline faster than failure itself. Someone tries to live with patience, then loses their temper. Someone commits to simplicity, then gets pulled into vanity. Someone reflects each evening, then avoids reflection for a week. The mind may say, "I have failed completely." Stoicism answers with a more useful question. What can be learned now? The practice is not a fragile ornament that breaks after one mistake. It is more like physical training. Missing a step does not erase the muscles already built. It simply shows where attention must return. This is not an excuse for carelessness. It is a refusal to turn imperfection into surrender. The old teachers understood that discouragement can become another form of self-indulgence. It keeps the person staring at the fall instead of standing up. A bad day is evidence. It is not a prophecy. The next choice is still open. Stoics return to training the way musicians return to scales. Mastery depends on repetition that may look ordinary from the outside. A musician does not practice scales because they are glamorous. They practice because skill disappears when fundamentals are neglected. Stoic exercises work in the same way. Review what is controllable. Examine impressions. Prepare for difficulty. Remember mortality. Choose the next right action. None of these practices needs to feel dramatic. Their power comes from returning again and again until the mind develops new reflexes. This image helps correct a common misunderstanding. Wisdom is not a single intense revelation that permanently solves life. It is a trained capacity. Under pressure, people usually perform according to what they have practiced most. If they have practiced resentment, resentment appears quickly. If they have practiced clarity, clarity has a better chance. The ancient path is therefore deeply practical. It asks what your inner scales are. Whatever you repeat each day becomes the music your character plays when the moment arrives. Attention was treated as the doorway to moral life. Before a person can act wisely, they must notice what is happening inside them. This sounds obvious, but it is rare. Many people are carried through the day by impulses they never fully see. They mistake irritation for truth. They mistake craving for need. They mistake anxiety for prophecy. The Stoics placed enormous importance on watchfulness because everything begins there. Without attention, philosophy remains asleep inside the mind. With attention, the person sees the moment when an impression asks for belief. They see the moment when pride wants to speak. They see the moment when fear begins designing an excuse. That noticing does not solve everything, but it opens the gate to choice. Some people search for transformation in distant experiences. Stoicism points to something closer. The next second of awareness may be the beginning of a different life. Moral freedom enters through attention before it becomes action, habit, and character. Distraction was dangerous because it made the soul live accidentally. To the Stoics, a scattered mind was not merely inefficient, it was morally vulnerable. When attention is constantly pulled outward, the person stops choosing deliberately. They absorb the mood of the crowd. They chase whatever shines. They react to whatever provokes them. Life becomes a series of borrowed impulses. This is why distraction matters far beyond productivity. It weakens the central faculty that should govern the self. Ancient distractions look different from modern ones, but the danger was familiar. Gossip, spectacle, ambition, pleasure, and noise could all pull a person away from the work of becoming clear. Today, the machinery is faster. Yet the old warning fits perfectly. If you do not guard attention, something else will spend it for you. Some people find this thought unsettling because it suggests that distraction is not neutral. It is a quiet form of surrender. The soul that never returns to itself may end up living a life it did not choose. Time was considered life itself, not something separate from living. Seneca's great shock is that people treat time as if it were a container around life, when it is actually the substance of life. Lose money, and you may earn more. Lose status, and it may return. Lose an hour, and that exact hour is gone forever. This makes time the most intimate possession and the most easily squandered. The Stoic view turns the ordinary calendar into something sacred. A wasted morning is not merely a scheduling problem. It is a piece of existence traded away. This does not mean every moment must be productive in a harsh sense. Rest can be wise. Friendship can be wise. Silence can be wise. The danger is unconscious spending. Many people give their hours to resentment, trivial entertainment, empty obligation, or the opinions of people they do not even respect. Stoicism asks for a ruthless honesty. What is receiving your life while you are busy calling it time? Seneca argued that people guard money more carefully than ours. This accusation lands hard because it is still true for many people. They will track expenses, protect possessions, negotiate prices, and resent being overcharged. Yet they may allow entire evenings, weeks, and years to be taken by distraction, vanity, resentment, or meaningless obligation. Seneca saw this as a strange blindness. Money is external and replaceable in a way that time is not. Time is the unrecoverable currency. Once spent, it cannot be demanded back from the person, habit, or fear that consumed it. This teaching does not require frantic living. It requires conscious living. To guard time is not to become tense. It is to stop giving life away automatically. That may mean refusing certain conversations, ending pointless delay, or choosing rest with full awareness rather than drifting into numbness. Some people find this more confronting than any sermon about ambition. It suggests that the true theft may be happening with our cooperation, minute by minute. Stoicism makes procrastination feel like a spiritual problem. Delay is not always laziness. Sometimes it is fear in disguise. Sometimes it is perfectionism dressed as standards. Sometimes it is the hope that a future self will be braver than the present self. The Stoics would see procrastination as a failure to honor the only time in which action is possible. Character cannot act tomorrow. It acts now, or it waits. That gives ordinary avoidance a deeper meaning. The unwritten letter, the postponed apology, the neglected work, and the delayed decision are not just tasks. They are places where the soul is being trained either toward courage or evasion. This is why Stoicism can make a simple, unfinished duty feel charged with importance. Not because every task is grand, but because every avoidance teaches the mind what it may continue to escape. The cure is often smaller than the fear suggests. Begin the next honest action. The spell of delay weakens when reality receives movement. The present moment becomes the only place character can act. The past can be studied, but it cannot be altered. The future can be prepared for, but it cannot be entered yet. This leaves the present as the sole workshop of character. Stoicism brings the mind back to that fact again and again. You cannot be courageous in yesterday's argument. You cannot be just in tomorrow's meeting. You can only choose now. That sounds simple until you notice how often the mind lives elsewhere. It replays old scenes, negotiates with imagined futures, and abandons the immediate duty in front of it. The Stoic return to the present is not a vague relaxation technique. It is an ethical necessity. The next word, the next breath, the next decision, and the next restraint are where the philosophy becomes real. Some people search for destiny across a lifetime. Stoicism says the whole path keeps narrowing to this exact point, where the soul either wakes up or drifts again. Regret concerns the past, while anxiety borrows trouble from the future. The Stoics saw how the mind suffers in times that are not presently here. Regret drags old pain back into consciousness and asks the person to relive what cannot be changed. Anxiety reaches forward and collects possible disasters before they have arrived. Between the two, the present can become thin and neglected. This does not mean memory and planning are useless. The past can teach. The future deserves preparation. The danger begins when the mind treats these realms as places to live. Stoicism calls attention back to the available moment. What can be corrected now? What can be prepared now? What can be released because it has no current task attached to it? This teaching has a powerful calming effect because it divides mental suffering by time. Some burdens belong to learning. Some belong to planning. Many belong to nothing useful at all. The mind becomes clearer when it stops paying interest on imagined pain. Stoic practice brings the mind back to the task before it. There is a clean power in doing the thing at hand without being possessed by everything around it. Wash the cup. Answer the message. Listen to the person speaking. Study the problem. Keep the promise. The Stoics valued this directness because scattered attention weakens action. A task becomes heavier when loaded with fear, vanity, resentment, and imagined judgment. The work itself may be simple. The mind makes it enormous. Stoic practice removes the unnecessary crowd. What is required now? What belongs to this moment? What can be done with care? This is not a small teaching. It can transform the atmosphere of a life. A person who returns fully to the present task becomes less available to panic and fantasy. Their day gains shape. Their actions gain weight. Some people overlook this because it sounds ordinary. Yet ordinary tasks are where much of existence is spent. To meet them well is to recover life from distraction. Gratitude was strengthened by imagining ordinary blessings suddenly removed. The Stoics understood that familiarity makes treasures invisible. A person may possess shelter, friendship, health, clean water, a working body, or a peaceful hour, yet barely notice them. Then, loss arrives, and the value becomes obvious too late. Stoic reflection reverses that pattern. It imagines removal before removal happens. What would this room feel like without safety? What would this meal mean if hunger had been longer? What would this voice mean if the person were gone? The exercise is not meant to create fear. It is meant to restore sight. Ordinary life becomes less ordinary when seen as temporary and unguaranteed. Some people find this practice more powerful than positive thinking because it does not paste brightness over reality. It uses reality's fragility to awaken appreciation. The cup in the hand, the breath in the chest, the friend nearby, and the quiet evening are no longer background details. They become gifts noticed before absence teaches the lesson. Loss became less shocking when impermanence was remembered daily. The Stoics trained themselves to recognize change as a constant law rather than a rare violation. Bodies change. Relationships change. Possessions move from hand to hand. Cities rise, age, and fall. Even moods pass through us like weather. Remembering this does not prevent grief, but it reduces the feeling that loss is an impossible interruption of life. Loss belongs to the structure of things. That fact can sound cold when first heard, yet it can become deeply stabilizing. The mind stops demanding permanent ownership in a world built for movement. It learns to hold with care rather than illusion. This does not make love weaker. It may make love more awake. The person who remembers impermanence is less likely to postpone kindness or assume endless chances. Some people find this idea almost frightening because it removes the fantasy of secure possession. But it also removes surprise from one of life's oldest truths. Everything entrusted to us is changing. The Stoics did not deny grief, but resisted being conquered by it. They knew sorrow was part of human life. They did not ask a parent, friend, spouse, or child to become a statue when loss arrived. What they questioned was the belief that grief should have unlimited authority over the soul. The first pain may be natural. The continuing surrender may involve judgment, memory, and repeated consent. Stoic consolation therefore walks a difficult line. It honors love while resisting collapse. It allows tears without turning tears into identity. This can feel severe if heard carelessly, but there is mercy in it. The grieving person is not told that nothing mattered. They are reminded that life still asks something of them. Duty may remain. Other loved ones may remain. The capacity for goodness remains. Some people are fascinated by this because it refuses both denial and total defeat. The wound is real, but it is not granted the right to erase every other part of the person. Marcus mourned loved ones while still seeking disciplined perspective. His writings and life make it clear that philosophy did not spare him from personal sorrow. He lost children, faced illness in his household, and lived under the strain of public responsibility during private pain. The important point is not that he felt nothing. The point is that he kept trying to place suffering within a larger view. Mortality, nature, duty, and gratitude all became lenses through which grief could be held. This is where Stoicism becomes more moving than its stereotype. The emperor does not escape the human condition. He studies how to remain faithful within it. A less disciplined mind might treat sorrow as permission to abandon responsibility or become bitter. Marcus tries to remember that love and loss are woven together in mortal life. Some people see this as the real test of wisdom. Not what a person says when life is easy, but what they reach for when the heart is under pressure. Epictetus taught that attachment should include awareness of change. His teaching on attachment can sound shocking if taken without care. He advised people to remember the fragile nature of those they love and the temporary nature of what they possess. The aim was not emotional distance. It was truthful tenderness. When you embrace someone, you should not unconsciously assume they are permanent. When you enjoy an object, you should not secretly imagine it cannot break, vanish, or be taken. This awareness changes the quality of holding. It can make affection more grateful and less possessive. The person is loved as mortal, not as property. The blessing is enjoyed as temporary, not as guaranteed. Some people misunderstand this as cold detachment, but it may be one of the most intimate teachings in Stoicism. To remember change while loving is to love without illusion. A heart may still ache when loss comes, yet it has not been deceived by the impossible promise that anything borrowed from life can be kept forever. Love became wiser when it stopped demanding ownership. The Stoics did not reject love. They tried to purify it from domination, panic, and fantasy. Much of what people call love contains a hidden claim. You must remain as I prefer. You must never change. You must complete the image I have built around you. When reality breaks those claims, the lover may become resentful or afraid. Stoic love asks for something more mature. Care deeply, but remember that the other person belongs first to nature, not to your control. Their body is mortal. Their mind is their own. Their path cannot be possessed like an object. This view does not make love smaller. It makes it cleaner. Affection becomes less tangled with ownership. Gratitude replaces entitlement. Presence replaces grasping. Some people find this difficult because possession can feel like security. Stoicism suggests the opposite. The attempt to own what cannot be owned creates suffering. Love becomes steadier when it learns to hold with open hands. Stoic friendship valued honesty more than constant agreement. A true friend was not merely someone who soothed your ego. Friendship had a moral purpose. It involved mutual improvement, truthful counsel, loyalty, and the courage to say what comfort would hide. This is a powerful contrast with relationships built only on approval. A person who always agrees may be pleasant, but they may not be useful to your character. The Stoic friend helps you see where vanity has entered, where anger is growing, where fear is disguising itself as prudence, or where ambition is leading you away from integrity. That kind of friendship requires trust because correction can sting. It also requires humility because nobody enjoys being exposed. Yet the reward is immense. You are no longer alone with your blind spots. Some people think friendship is proven by support during hardship. Stoicism adds another test. Will this person help me become better, even when the truth costs both of us a little comfort? Teachers were expected to embody lessons before explaining them. In the Stoic world, instruction without example was deeply suspect. Words could be impressive, but the teacher's life carried the stronger argument. Did they meet insult with restraint? Did they handle money without servitude? Did they treat ordinary people with fairness? Did their speech match their conduct when difficulty arrived? These questions mattered because philosophy was not an entertainment of the intellect. It was a craft of living. A teacher who could define courage but panic under every inconvenience had not yet become the lesson. This standard remains uncomfortable today. It challenges influencers, leaders, parents, spiritual guides, and anyone who speaks about wisdom. The message and the messenger cannot be completely separated when the subject is character. Some people are fascinated by ancient schools because they treated philosophy almost like apprenticeship. You watched how a person stood, ate, answered, lost, waited, and chose. The living demonstration could teach what no clever sentence could carry. A philosopher's clothing mattered less than the soul wearing it. The ancient world knew the temptation of costume. A person could wear a rough cloak, grow a beard, speak in a serious tone, and appear philosophical without becoming wise. The Stoics warned against confusing symbols with substance. Outer simplicity can be meaningful when it reflects inner freedom. It becomes vanity when it is used to advertise superiority. This is an old problem with a modern face. People still use appearance, vocabulary, lifestyle, and public identity to signal depth. Stoicism cuts through the performance. The question is not what the person looks like while speaking about virtue. The question is how they live when pride is tempted, comfort is threatened, or nobody is watching. Clothing can hide disorder as easily as luxury can. A simple robe does not make a just soul. A polished room does not make a corrupt one. The deeper investigation always returns to character. What is wearing the costume? That is what matters. Stoics distrusted clever speech that did not improve conduct. They were not enemies of language. Their own tradition produced powerful arguments, memorable sayings, and careful analysis. But they feared speech that becomes a substitute for transformation. A person can sound wise and remain unchanged. They can collect phrases about discipline while avoiding the discipline itself. They can explain anger while still being ruled by it. Clever speech is dangerous because it rewards the speaker before life has verified the lesson. The audience may applaud, and the ego may feel complete. Yet the character may be untouched. Stoicism asks language to earn its place by serving practice. Does this sentence make the listener braver, fairer, calmer, or more honest? Does it clarify action? Does it expose a false belief? If not, it may be decoration. This is a vital warning for anyone drawn to big ideas. Insight is not proven by the ability to discuss it. It is proven when behavior begins to change. Silence could be a discipline when words served vanity. The Stoics understood that speech often pretends to be necessary when it is really seeking attention. A person may interrupt to appear clever. They may gossip to feel important. They may explain too much to protect their image. They may offer opinions because silence makes the ego uncomfortable. In these moments, restraint becomes a form of strength. Silence is not emptiness when it is chosen with awareness. It can preserve dignity, prevent harm, and reveal motives that speech would have concealed. This teaching is especially useful because words are among the fastest ways character escapes the body. Listen to someone long enough, and you begin to hear what they worship: approval, control, complaint, truth, peace. The Stoic practice asks the mouth to wait for reason. Is this useful? Is it kind enough? Is it necessary? Is it mine to say? Some people discover that many sentences lose their importance when vanity is removed from them. Humor survived in Stoicism because seriousness was not the same as wisdom. The tradition can sound stern, but it was not built on permanent grimness. Human life is too strange for that. People chase praise from those they barely respect. They become furious over delays that will soon be forgotten. They guard possessions while wasting years. A clear mind can see the absurdity without becoming cruel. Humor, when guided by kindness and proportion, can puncture ego. It can loosen fear. It can remind us that our dramas are sometimes smaller than they feel. The Stoics did not recommend mockery as a way of life, and they distrusted laughter that humiliates. But they also knew that taking every personal irritation with solemn intensity is another form of vanity. Wisdom can smile at the human condition. That smile may be part of its strength. Some people imagine the philosopher as a severe figure carved in stone. A better image might include someone who sees clearly enough not to be fooled by every inner performance. The sage was an ideal guide, not an easy human achievement. The Stoic sage represented perfect wisdom. Such a person would judge rightly, desire rightly, act justly, and remain inwardly free under every condition. This figure can sound almost impossible, and that may be the point. The sage functions like a North Star rather than a neighborhood address. Travelers do not expect to touch the star. They use it to keep direction. In the same way, the ideal gives the practitioner a standard beyond ordinary compromise. What would complete wisdom choose here? How would perfect courage speak? What would justice do without fear or vanity? These questions can guide action, even when the person asking them remains flawed. Some people are fascinated by the idea because it resembles an ancient psychological model of full human maturity. The sage is not a fantasy superhero. The sage is a picture of reason, character, and freedom fully integrated. Even if no one reaches it easily, the image pulls the soul upward. Even ancient Stoics disagreed about how perfectly wisdom could be lived. The tradition was not a frozen block of doctrine. It contained arguments, refinements, tensions, and different emphases over time. Some thinkers treated the sage as extremely rare, perhaps almost never seen. Others focused more on the practical movement toward wisdom. That debate matters because it shows the school was alive. A living philosophy asks difficult questions about its own standards. If perfect wisdom is nearly impossible, how should ordinary students understand success? If progress is real, how do we measure it without becoming complacent? If virtue is the only true good, what do we make of all the partial victories along the way? These questions prevent Stoicism from becoming simplistic. Some people are drawn to hidden systems because they promise final answers. Stoicism is more interesting than that. It offers firm principles, then forces the student to test them inside complicated life. Even among the ancients, wisdom was not merely repeated, it was investigated. Stoicism endures because it turns ordinary difficulties into training. This is the secret of its survival. The material is never missing. You do not need a monastery, a mountain cave, or a dramatic crisis to begin. A traffic delay can train patience. A rude message can train restraint. A failed plan can train flexibility. A compliment can train humility. A temptation can train self-command. The world keeps delivering exercises disguised as interruptions. This changes the meaning of daily life. Annoyances are no longer pointless intrusions. They become opportunities to practice the exact virtues you claim to admire. That idea is powerful because it makes wisdom portable. It can follow a parent through a sleepless night, a worker through a hard meeting, a student through embarrassment, or an aging person through physical change. Some people search for spiritual tests in extraordinary places. Stoicism says the test has already arrived. It is sitting in the next inconvenience, asking what kind of person will answer. Its final lesson is simple, but it can take a lifetime. After all the arguments, exercises, names, and stories, the teaching returns to something direct. You cannot command the whole world, but you can work on the part of life entrusted to your judgment. That sounds easy until the moment of insult, fear, desire, grief, praise, or uncertainty arrives. Then the lesson becomes real. The mind wants to bargain with fate. The ego wants to defend its throne. The body wants comfort. The crowd wants agreement. Stoicism asks for a steadier loyalty. Choose what is yours. Release what was never yours. Act with courage, justice, wisdom, and restraint while the outcome remains uncertain. This is why the path can last an entire life. The same truth must be rediscovered under different conditions. Youth learns it one way. Ambition learns it another. Loss, love, age, and power each reveal new layers. The final lesson is not hidden. It is waiting to be practiced again. And so we come to the end of this journey through Stoic wisdom. We have walked from the busy streets of ancient Athens to the private thoughts of a Roman emperor. We have listened to teachers who carried water at night, lost fortunes at sea, endured slavery, advised rulers, and tried to remain steady in a world that would not stand still. At the heart of it all, Stoicism gives us a simple but demanding vision. Life will change. People will disappoint us. Comfort will come and go. Praise will fade. The body will age. The future will remain uncertain. And yet, within all of this movement, there is still a place where character can be trained. The Stoics asked us to notice our judgments, guard our attention, loosen our grip on what was never fully ours, and return again to the next right action. Not with coldness, not with denial, but with a clearer mind and a steadier heart. So as this video comes to a close, let the ideas settle softly. Let the old names drift into the background. Zeno, Epictetus, Seneca, Marcus. Let them become less like distant figures from history and more like quiet companions at the edge of the mind. If you enjoyed this journey, you are warmly invited to like, subscribe, or share a thought below. It helps others find their way here too. And if you are still awake, there should be another video waiting on the screen, ready to carry you a little further. But for now, there is nothing more to solve. Let your shoulders loosen. Let your breathing slow. Let the day release its hold, one thought at a time. Whatever remains unfinished can wait until morning. Sleep well, and good night.